Chapter 1. Integrating Educational Technology into the Curriculum. Computer technology and mobile devices play an essential role in how individuals work, how they play, how they live, and most importantly, how they learn. Throughout this lecture, I would like for you to think of ways in which technology has changed the way that you perform tasks. Effective teaching for the 21st century requires that you possess more than content knowledge. It also requires pedagogical knowledge. When you possess pedagogical knowledge, you know the most useful forms of representing and communicating content and how students best learn. So, in essence, you know what instructional strategies to employ in your classroom. You know what strategies work best for your student population, as well as what Web 2.0 technologies are best suited for your students based on their learning curve. There is an intersection of pedagogical and technological knowledge, and this intersection is not a newly developed intersection. The three things that educators need to be mindful of as it relates to the intersection of pedagogical and technological knowledge is one, that technologies have been a part of the teaching and learning exchange for centuries. Secondly, that the two main functions of technology are communication and information storage. And thirdly, that technologies such as smartphones, laptops, iPads have become more accessible, offering greater speed and quality. Technology has evolved from the pre-mechanical phase, where forms of information and communication technologies such as quill, ink, and paper were used for legal proclamations and religious documents, to the mechanical phase, through the creation and use of the printing press. Books became the new technologies during this phase. The electrical phase, the widespread use of phonograph, radio, and television increased opportunities for communication during this phase, to the digital phase. Because of the significantly faster processors and high-speed wireless networks, we are able to use technologies such as word processors, digital cameras, email, and cellular phones. Technology will continue to evolve in new and exciting ways that have yet to be discovered. I discussed the phases in which technology has evolved. Now I'm going to discuss the phases in which computers have evolved. The first phase, which began in 1977 and ended in 1982, the computer was an object. In 1980 was the computer's entry into mainstream classroom, which prompted the creation of new curricula and standards in an effort to help students and teachers become both computer and technology literate. Computer literate means that one has an understanding of computer history, architecture, and terminology. Technology literate means that one has an understanding or a general working knowledge of current technology. The second phase, which began in 1983 and ended in 1990, the computer was a programming tool. This phase heralded the use of computers for higher order thinking skills. Two advancements during this phase was programming used to teach general problem solving skills and hypermedia's potential to open up learning software by allowing students to use hyperlinks to find their own paths or to create their own discovery learning moments. The third phase, which began in 1991 and ended in 1996, the computer was a communication device and resource tool. During this phase, there was a transition from learning about computers to learning with computers. Productivity applications such as word processors and databases were being used. Computers were used as classroom communication devices, as well as tools to access resources. The Advanced Research Project Agency Network, or the APRNet, was created. The APRNet was an early network that linked engineers and scientists, permitting a shared place for collaboration. The creation of the APRNet was a critical step toward creating the Internet. The fourth phase, which began in 1997 and continues, the computer is used as a learning and social tool. During this phase, there is a move from passive consumers of information to creators of information. This move requires information literacy. Information literacy is the ability to recognize when information is needed and to locate, evaluate, and use the needed information effectively. Information and Communication Technology, or ICT, is a term that refers to all technology that supports the manipulation and communication of information. Today's students use different technologies to communicate and access information from multiple resources. I would like for you to think about the question that I'm posing and be prepared to answer it in class. I've discussed the phases of technology as well as the phases of computers. With all of the advancements and improvements of computers and technology, why are educators still reluctant to integrate technology into the classroom in ways that allow students to describe the past, explain the present, and encourage them to think about the future? The use of technologies should not be to replace teachers, instead to enhance the teaching and learning exchange. The appropriate integration of technology allows teachers an opportunity to transition from their role as sage on the stage to guide on the side, where they're able to facilitate the learning process. New technologies make it easier for teachers to incorporate new technology theories and pedagogies such as active learning and guided discovery in their classroom. It also frees teachers and students from mundane tasks so that they focus on activities that promote greater collaboration, in-depth study, and critical thinking skills. The 2010 National Education Technology Plan shifts our focus from an emphasis on technology for teaching, where PowerPoints, Elmos, and overhead projectors were used as instructional tools, to technology for learning, where now smartboards, apps, and tablets are considered instructional tools. Students are at the center of curricular and classroom learning experiences, and technology is used to support an authentic learning center curriculum. In an authentic learning center curriculum, students demonstrate their understanding of concepts by using real-world issues. The first decade of the 21st century was known as the Age of Convergence. The Age of Convergence will continue to evolve in new, exciting, and yet to be determined ways as we live, teach, learn, and work in the second decade of this century. Students mastering the 21st century skills have the ability to solve complex problems, to think critically, to collaborate, and use a variety of multimedia to communicate ideas. The goal is for technologies to become as important to the work of teaching and learning as power tools are to the work of building a house. This requires educators to be able to assess technology resources and plan classroom activities using available technologies. The standards movement in education also heavily influences the way in which technology proficiency is defined. In 1983, the report titled A Nation at Risk was published, and in the eyes of many, the modern standards movement began. The report listed the following two goals directly related to student achievement. In an effort to determine the criteria for compliance with these goals, minimum standards were needed in many content domains, where few, if any, had existed previously. And so, beginning in 1983 and continuing through 1999, efforts were undertaken by national professional organizations in all the major content areas, English, mathematics, science, etc., to create a set of curricular standards for their specific disciplines. The International Society for Technology in Education, or ISTE, released technology standards for teachers, students, and administrators. All teachers must meet the technology standards listed below. The National Education Technology Standards for students, the next generation, listed below, are what students should know and be able to do to learn effectively and live productively in an increasingly digital world. Standards provide a common set of expectations, clarify expectations, and raise expectations. When standards work as intended, they help us achieve first-rate quality in service, products, and teaching. The three factors to consider with respect to standards are listed below and are often referred to as the 3 C's. The first C is criteria. Criteria is what is expected. The next C is compliance. Compliance refers to who is subject to the standard and on what basis. The last C is consequences. Consequences are related to compliance or non-compliance of the standards and indicates what happens if you do or do not meet the standards. It's so common and so human to get excited about the rigor. This could be technology or new classroom pedagogy, that we forget to build strong foundational relationships before setting off on our journey to teach. When teachers have strong, trusting relationships with their students, they work harder and achieve more. Technology integration requires changes to the instructional components listed below. When we integrate technologies into instruction, we want to make them an integral part of the teaching and learning process. If you are selecting a YouTube video for your students, you will want to ensure that the content in the video aided in the comprehension of the concept you are discussing in class, and that the video was suitable for your student population. When teachers integrate technology into instruction, it allows teachers the opportunity to create new learning experiences in which teachers and students work together to address the requirements of the curriculum while still taking into account individual student needs, interests, and preferences. Below are the stages in technology integration. Classroom teachers initially focus on learning the new technology and using the technology to support traditional instruction. In latter stages, teachers begin to develop new approaches to teaching and learning that make the most of the technology available to them. Teachers no longer try to adapt instruction to technology, but instead adjust the fundamental nature of their instruction to enable new learning activities not possible without the technology. In this chapter, we reviewed the history of technology integration within the classroom. Throughout this course, you'll be asked to think about how students will interact with technologies, the resources you will provide, the instructional activities you will use, and the role you will assume as a teacher in a technology-rich classroom. As a beginning teacher, you may face some challenges. Every teacher does. But as part of the first generation of teachers to enter the teaching profession already comfortable with computers and other digital technologies, you are probably more prepared than we were as beginning teachers.